Captain on the bridge.
Alright, Captains, we are back on the bridge, and yes, today, Captains, we will be going over Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 5. But before we do so, Captains, do me a favor, like this video and also subscribe here to YouTube Bridge, as we're always on the lookout for like-minded Captains where we can share our love, our passion for Star Trek and all things really Star Trek, as one of the primary things we cover here on this channel is Star Trek Online. But with that said, regardless, it's Star Trek. Here we go. Captains, oof, this episode, I had to watch it 3 times, I'm not gonna lie. So what we're gonna do is go over the screenshots, drop my ECs as we go along, and then at the end, give my conclusions. But let me just say this, I was not prepared for the FEELZ this time around. I literally was not, but here we go. So first screenshot here. I love how they're doing the previously on stuff. It does bring you back up to speed because there's a week in between episodes. Of course, if you binge watch it, there's not, but really I do like it. There's a reminder here, and you know, the only thing I took note of here on this was that incident that happened there, because that is what is essentially what's being led up to and what's going on and who did this and exactly what the plot is. So again, I appreciate all that, but we start off here on the bridge. We see the crew there of the Titan just going about their business there, and someone enters, and when he does, it creates chaos and actually starts shooting up the whole crew, everyone. And we find out it's actually our boy Jack. He is the one that actually was going off and killing everyone there. Now, we saw this image there in the trailer leading up to, and all this was just an actual, I don't want to say dream, but just moment in Jack's head. And as you can see there, he's holding a phaser. He's kind of wondering what's happening there. And well, again, my sort of thought of this was that he had a changeling impart on him since that fight he had with the first changeling we encountered there a couple episodes back. But this might be going a little further back. I don't know, but that is kind of where I'm getting it now. Throughout this whole time he's having these, I don't know what you call them, hallucinations, or these episodes, we're hearing voices and saying, find me, find me. I heard Vatic. I'm hearing now Beverly. So I have a theory. We'll go through that at the end there. But it's starting up, Captains. And there you go. We actually have him with this red eye aura, which is, of course, kind of what he's seeing as well in his head. So I am not sure if this is the changeling in him sort of taking over or starting to take over. But you can tell he's having issues with trying to hold it back. But now we go into the actual episode, which is Imposters. Now, we are 5 episodes in, and I cannot believe how good these episodes have been. And I've, just like the rest, this one took me for a ride. And like I said, like I mentioned before, I was not prepared for it. But we know that the changelings now is a thing, and this episode really dives into that and really puts that in the forefront. But now we get, of course, a shot of the Titan getting repaired. They're apparently in the Alpha Quadrant. Riker is doing his log here. Now, of course, I could not resist not taking shots of this gorgeous ship, the Titan A. I cannot wait until the ship gets into Star Trek Online. But I will make note that I saw a bunch of these dot drones fixing her up. I mentioned this before, not in these series, but on stream before, that I don't get these repair drones. They're a thing now, sure. We actually do have them in Star Trek Online, and can you have them as a combat pet on the ground. But they didn't really do a close-up, but to those, you know, the first time we saw this was in Star Trek Discovery. But of course, to those who watch that know what these are. And I could not help myself but not shake my head. I did shake my head, but it is what it is. They're there, except the Triz. Now, of course, we're taken into the room there with the 4 So Picard, Riker, Seven, and Liam, of course, them talking about the whole changing situation. And we have Riker giving the command back to Liam. And I can't. I'm laughing because both 3 times that I've watched this episode, I'm this is where I am with Captain Liam as of this episode. From the beginning till now, it was like, I don't like you, to please don't die, to I like you, and then you're being a prick again. Like he's just so good. And I will say this again, I said in my previous videos there that we did on the new ship there, that we'll see more of in this episode, was that I do hope that he gets his own spin-off series. I will note that my connection to him wasn't as strong as my connection to Pike, but doesn't say that he cannot lead his own series, in my opinion, especially when he's backed up with the Titan. And I'm not sure if Seven would be a good running sort of co-star with him. I say that to say because I think Seven deserves her own spin-off, in my opinion, because I think with all this going on, I don't know how these two can kind of sort of coexist for a whole season, let alone however many seasons a potential show will get. But he lets them know that, yeah, he contacted Starfleet so that they're on their way. And that's right after Riker transferred back the command codes to him. He does like a knighting ceremony on Seven, reinstating her. But he does, again, his Liamisms, and he says, okay, I'll leave you 3 to get your guys' story straight. Again, just being able to stand up to 3 legacy characters like that on his own, infusing his own charm or lack of thereof or whatever, I absolutely am for Captain Liam Shaw. Then, of course, we have Picard heading out and is greeted by Beverly and Jack. And Beverly informs Picard that she wants to go ahead and do an autopsy on the changeling there. And it was pretty cool. But this moment here between the two here, Picard and Jack, was cool. Kind of talked about, of course, the possibility of Jack joining Starfleet. And Jack was just like, yeah, no. Once Starfleet's done with me, I'm going to be on my little merry way. This relationship between, or I should say progression of their relationship between Jack and Picard is still a little off for me because of just how fast things are going. Of course, they're trying to cram everything in a very short amount of time. And this, though, they do push Jack in front now because it has to move the story along. And I still think the pacing of this was pretty good. It had its really great moments. And this is still, you can tell Picard is still kind of trying to get to know him. And it is very apparent that they still have a ways to go when it comes to them having a relationship. Now, again, I have a theory. I'm not necessarily hoping that theory comes to pass, but it is what it is. So now we're taken to a fight between, or a training between Worf and Raffi. I thought this scene was cool. Again, Worf doing his Worf thing and just schooling Raffi. But it was a great scene. And even to the point where he kind of, in the middle of the fight, just starts meditating for some reason. I don't know. But they actually get contacted by Worf's handler there, because he's asking permission if they can get into the Daystrom, and it's denied, unfortunately. And Raffi asks as well, and they just said, find another way. So, again, moving this subplot along here, they're trying to find out, and they're also being guided by this handler of Worf's to kind of find another way to see what's going on, but they're kind of getting blocked. But again, that kind of plays to the whole thing of what we're gonna find out in this episode. Now, again, this interaction between the two was great. Worf, kind of mentions to Raffi about, do not assume what I have or have not sacrificed. I thought it was a great line from him. Again, him in the scenes that he's with Raffi, he's definitely just, I don't want to say dragging her along. And I've said this before, and I've been very open up before. I'm not the biggest Raffi fan, but the interaction between Worf and Raffi is, it's working for me at this point. I know some of my fellow campers don't like LLaP, but that's okay. That doesn't have everyone. This can't be perfect, right? But it's pretty darn close to being perfect. But again, it is just great seeing that. And they go into detail saying that Daystrom Institute is AI sort of. So this is going to play a part, I really feel, at this whole AI thing. And it's kind of scary how it's mirroring the real world, but that's probably another video or discussion to be had. But that's why they're requesting access, because they just can't. It's hard for them to get in there. But Worf does say that they might have another contact because, well, Sneed was that contact, but he knows of a possible other. And of course, we get this, Kryn. Now, this screen says a lot. So we have 3 names there. Morn from TSI, that's awesome. Brunt of Ferenginar, we actually have him in Star Trek Online, which is awesome. And Thadian Okana of Omega. So that is not ringing a bell to me, captains. If you know that last name there, let me know in the comments below, jog my memory. But their target now is Kryn, who is connected to Sneed. And that is now their primary objective, to find out and continue on their investigation. So they head out to the planet. Again, the scenes here were pretty good with Worf. And later on, I get such feels with Worf here, and it's just such a great scene here. And he does his whole thing where he just meditates because he just wants to have the ecology or something to that effect kind of work its way out, because Raffi here shot, when they got to the scene here, the bar here, everyone scattered. She shot a phaser in the air saying they're looking for Kryn. So now it was only them two and everyone was kind of scattering away. But now we get back to the Titan, and here we get that scene of the Intrepid warping in. Again, I'm going to take this opportunity to give a huge shout out to Bill Krause, aka Admiral Buck on Twitter. Captains, we've had him on the bridge here, and we're gonna have him again. We're in constant communication with him, just kind of me just DMing him saying congrats sir and all that stuff. And we had very sort of short conversations, but you can tell how happy he is, and I'm happy for him. I don't know him other than the fact that we've had him here, but I'm just really happy for him, to have these fan designs coming to Star Trek. Just opens up a potential of even more stuff coming into Star Trek Online that, a lot of Star Trek fans do make some good designs. So hopefully, but we get a shot here of the ship now that is Picardified. Sure. Now looking all its thing, and again, that secondary hull is pretty interesting, but we'll kind of go into that in more detail probably in a separate video as a follow-up to the other video I did, which thank you captains for checking that out. That is doing very well here on the bridge, and I really do appreciate it. But I did take the opportunity to take this shot. Now, I would have thought that this ship would have been smaller, but as of this scene here, and whether it could be just due to perspective, it looks like it's a little bigger. If you look at the nacelles, it may be the same size, but this camera was kind of panning around the ships. But I felt like this should have been a smaller ship, kind of more like an interceptor type ship. But in Admiral Buck's fleet chart that we went over in the last video that we did about the reveal of this ship, it is pretty big, but I would have almost preferred it be a smaller, just proportion-wise. It just seems like it shouldn't be that big compared to the Titan. It's just my own personal opinion. That's all it is, but at least we get a good shot of it, and we get a really good look at this ship in this episode. There it is again. You see it kind of panning around, like I said. And again, I thought this would just be a lot smaller, but you can see how low the deflector is, and it kind of has that shape of, and we call this ship there, one of his older ships, the Wasp. And I kind of get it, the kind of stinger kind of coming forward. That's kind of the vibe I get here. But again, you can see it using the Sagan nacelles, which I wish they would have given different nacelles. And hopefully we'll make another video on that, like I said, on this as a follow-up, but also going into a little bit more detail on the nacelles. But we'll go into that, like I said, in another time. So there is the call Leah made, and they're there. So they are being told that a shuttle is requesting to head over there, and due to the security officer on the Intrepid asking for clearance, and Liam's like, well, why don't they want to use transporters? So that was kind of weird, and we get, of course, to find out in little bits. But Picard, at this point, knowing what's happening for Starfleet coming for them, wants to draw upon Seven one more time for a favor. So that is what he's asking there. Again, Seven, I love her. And can we just not say how perfect her hair and Beverly's hair has been throughout this up to this point? I love it. Again, Seven just doing her thing, and I really do hope that Seven gets something out of Picard. But we'll get into more of that, of course, at the end. And I have to say, this was one of the funniest parts again. I'd have to say one of my favorites. So they're heading, Liam is escorting them to the security officers, and he just starts humming. And the conversation here, he started dropping the sort of what they're known for, because they kind of said, we've had to save the universe, Riker said. And, and Picard's like, well, I hope they remember that. And he's like, oh yeah, like the time you dropped a saucer. And of course, talking about the galaxy when the saucer, or the Enterprise D when the saucer crashed on the planet. Even talked about Picard going against a prime directive and getting hooked up with one of the Baku there. And then, of course, creating the whole temporal anomaly thing. It was such a good scene. And the smug face, I went back to wanting to punch him. Not gonna lie, but in a good way, if I can even say that. But this whole entire scene was really good. Again, him holding up to legacy characters speaks so much volumes of the actual actor and his ability. So I think he can hold his own show. I really do. And I hope something comes out of that petition. I really do. But it was a great scene. And again, his face. I was going through the screenshots and I see his face. I just had to take it because he's just talking, and just like, the tone I get is na 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 na, you're in trouble. So I love it. I'm all here for it. But we do get this scene. This was from the trailers that we were getting before Picard dropped, which was Picard saying those were the days, because that was when Liam was going over all those incidents in their previous career. That was awesome. But here is what I was not ready for. A reappearance, a reintroduction to Ro Lauren, and I did not know I needed this. I when watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, the show that I grew up with, I never really connected to the character, nor can I remember their connection when it comes to Ro and Picard. But that plays a vital role in this episode, and I didn't know I needed, but she is there to question them, and is actually telling them that they're going to be charged for treason. And it was absolutely insane. Look at her look, and that was the look towards Picard. And I don't know if Liam's smiling there, but he's or I caught him on a blink. You could tell he's like probably in the inside going yes. But this is the start. This is the start of a huge just moment in this episode that just carried for like almost 3/4, it felt like. But it was great. And again, just her stare. She did so good. All I can say, she did it so good. But now the favor is, of course, Seven took Jack and is actually asking him to put on the uniform, because she wants to hide him in plain sight as a Starfleet officer. And of course, he's hesitant because of what we saw in the beginning of the episode where he went to the bridge. And, well, that's the uniform that he was wearing. So now we head over to the scene with Beverly doing the autopsy and asking LaForge, is this not you? And she actually hurls. She's not feeling well. And I thought this was, again, a good sort of side story to carry along the story, because, again, we need to find out what's going on, and we find out a lot. So she starts doing her autopsy and is noticing, the blood has no DNA. The shapeshifters, usually they lose their form once they die, but they're able now to hold their form even after death. So again, we're going to find out a lot of that, of what's going on there. And that's just kind of troubling, of course, Beverly. But then we get over to the next one. Now we see Picard and Riker in the room there, and they're actually going back and forth and talking about the history between the two. Apparently Ro, again, I don't remember this, that means probably I need to rewatch TNG, but Ro betraying Picard, and that's why we see in this episode Picard really, really not liking Ro, and it was just due to that fact that she was sent on a mission by Picard, and she kind of betrayed and actually joined the Maquis, and Riker's just kind of telling him, well, you kind of knew that it might happen, but we get told here that they're close, that Picard was the mentor. But yeah, he was just not happy at all here. And of course she enters the room, and again, just the look that she's accompanied, of course, by security officers from the Intrepid there. But she's going to start questioning, and she's going to start with Admiral Picard, and Riker is essentially, okay, this look comes when after Ro says, you will address him as commander. Riker, as much as he had his moment in the last episode, he still has a very vital role, in my opinion, here, to kind of be Picard's sort of support. And again, Riker's just killing it, in my opinion. But again, we have this discussion between Picard and Ro, and again, you can get the sense that Picard is just pissed and livid with Ro, and they start talking about what had happened. Of course, her turning herself into Starfleet and how she worked her way back up to where she is. And of course, Starfleet just said, well, her experience will make her valuable to Starfleet in terms of working in Starfleet intelligence, of course. But Ro just did such a good job in this episode, and I was invested instantly from the moment I saw her. They kept a good raps of not making it known that she was going to come back. And a observation that Picard did make, though, was that her Bajoran earring was missing, and they started talking about, again, just getting into their past. This was built up so fast in terms of how they reconnected already here. Not on the best of terms, but they did it so well. They both played off of each other. I think both Picard and Ro just did such a great job here in building up to what was the eventual sort of end here of this episode in terms of their past and them coming to terms of their past. But to actually prove to Picard that she's not changing, because that was the whole thing, she cuts herself. But of course, now we know that it doesn't really matter, right? Because from what Beverly said, they're able to hold their form now. So we're still kind of thinking, well, how do we really know? Well, as me, that's kind of I was thinking at this point. And Picard did a good job, I will say. But now we comes back at Jack, him struggling again with the whole thing here. And he heads off to the transporter room. This is the scene that we see in the trailer before. So all these officers are beaming over the Intrepid, because that is now the direction from Ro, is to have the crew of the Titan head over to the Intrepid and be reassigned. And of course, we saw this in the last episode. I did mention Iconians, but no, these are the changelings. He can see them. He can definitely see them, and I think this is just a reflection, or this is again just showing us that, yeah, he is recognizing who he is. Now he does get asked by one of the transporter officers, two of them here, if he was okay, and Jack's asking like, hey, if you can get me out of here. And well, next thing is he kills him. Now there was an officer there. Again, this was all actually happening in his head, because yeah, this was playing out in his head here when he's being asked by the officer where he shots him. But I think this is trying to tell us that he's struggling to I'd say struggling, but he is being shown what to do in these situations. And here we can tell he's resisting because he didn't actually do it. He actually just walked away. So we're taken now back to Raffi and Worf. And well, while he's meditating, he gets a laser pointed at him and is actually confronted now by a Vulcan. And of course, that is the Kryn Vulcan who states that Sneed was his brother. So Worf's like, well, you're Vulcan. Well, no, they grew up together. And, you know, I will say this actor, don't know who he is, but holy cow, he captured me right away with his tone. The way he's, it's almost like he has like, his voice is going to give out at almost any moment. I don't know what to actually call it. It's like a very raspy, deep tone. And sometimes there are tones that just kind of resonate with you. And I loved every part of the scene that he was in, but he's, of course, now confronting Raffi and Worf. And, you know, the whole thing saying that there was Starfleet intelligence, we have the upper hand here, but really, he's not falling for it because I didn't even notice this until I watched it the second and third time, well, second time. So he takes a beam weapon, actually fires at Raffi, but not at Raffi, but what he shot at was a mobile emitter. Talk about nuggets, of course, from Voyager, right? The Doctor. So the whole point of this was their plan, Worf's plan, and Raffi's plan was, of course, have a fake Raffi there while Raffi was sort of in a sniper position, but she was actually caught. So that didn't work out so well. And of course now they're being captured by Kryn here. Now back, this is where we get more information on. So this is the where Beverly's doing the autopsy here. She is saying that the changelings are able to definitely get away from the measures in place to detect them because they're even replicating within themselves organs. But until you do an actual, like, take out the organs, and then you're not going to know. So, you know, the other doctor from the Titan said, you know, this is a new species. No, Beverly thinks that they've just evolved. So again, what we know now, again, is that there is a splinter group from the Great Link. They're a group that has broken off and is doing this to Starfleet, to them. They're the ones doing all of this. And again, that plays into my theory, but we'll talk about it at the end there. So that's what we find out. And if they could be anyone, they could be anywhere. And again, this is moving the story quite, along quite nicely. The pacing is just perfect, not rushed in my opinion, which again, will go into the end there when we give our conclusion. So again, back to Ro and Picard. Again, the way that these two are playing off each other, I didn't know I needed this. I did not know I needed this. But while they're, of course, talking there, he does actually get contacted by Bev saying, I have your test results, because Picard said, well, I'm here with Ro. So, of course, that's code word to, don't give away everything. But says, I have your test results. And it was just a message saying that changes can pass the blood test capabilities beyond superficial. Again, the whole thing with Beverly, trust no one. But the moment here, again, it's thickening, right? The plot is literally thickening with the changelings. But I don't know what it is, but they killed it with Ro. Ro, the actress, just killed it. But she's being asked if she can go see the changelings. But this is after, of course, they still have talking. Even though I captured the smile, it wasn't like a friendly conversation at all. It was them talking about, again, the past, and Picard really emphasizing how Ro betrayed him, I should say, and how she, in her own mind, did what she had to do, right? So, again, great scene between the two. Absolutely loved it. But then we have the security officers that was with Ro looking for Jack Crusher, of course, as they go along here. But Ro does ask Picard to take her to the sick bay, but then pulls a gun on Picard. this is where I did not know I needed it again. So she asks Picard to head over to the holodeck. They go, of course, he's surprised. And of course, I'm thinking, well, she's a changeling, right? But they go into the bar. You can see there, holodeck 10 forward, 2024. And he turns off the safety protocols. And while he turns around, she does ask for music to be played. He plays it and uses that opportunity to get a phaser. Now, this is where it absolutely gets insane. They talk about everything between them, what they were holding back, and the moments between the two. And of course, he says this in Bajoran. That's why there's a script there or subtitles. An ego that would lead you to betray me. And he's talking about, he started the conversation off with the Bajoran earring, because of course, how do we know who each other are? So he starts recalling the time that Ro came on to the Enterprise, and he told her that the earring, her Bajoran earring, was in violation of the Starfleet uniform dress code, and she wanted to actually keep it on because it reminded her of her family or something to that effect. But it was only about, and this is why when he said it's all about your ego. Again, the exchange here was getting so good. And this is where it started to get, they just started taking it all out on why, what they were feeling inside, you know. And Ro here actually says it was so hard to live under Picard's judgment, and you know, it was kind of like a one-way street. And Picard was saying, you know, you betrayed and all that stuff, again, keeping that ideals. And this is where it started, when he said, you broke my heart. And oh my God, she said, not gonna do it. Third time, I shed a tear. I was getting watered. The way they delivered this, when they both said they broke each other's heart, was, you know, was just great. Again, a moment that I was not prepared for. I didn't know I needed, but I needed it. And Picard started it when he said, you broke my heart. And I think here is when, of course, they realize, well, that's sort of the pain that indicated to both of them that they're not changelings. So this moment is my favorite. I don't care. This is my favorite moment. Everything about the interaction with Ro and Picard, how it led to this, and how where it ends, I love it. I can't even words, but it was a great moment. Just how she showed her emotion. It felt real. And that's why I'm loving everything about Picard so far, because of how they're making me feel, you know, and they're taking me and putting me through the story, through the way they're acting, and I just love it. I really do. And he's like, no, he asks, why are you here? Well, she does say that this is where her investigation is leading her, that on her own, that Starfleet has been compromised, and that there's changelings everywhere, as, of course, what we're learning and seeing actually as the episodes go on. But again, this moment was awesome between the two. Of course, taken back to the planet there with Raffi and Worf. Well, essentially, they're pitted up against each other. At this point, it's a fight to the death, where the moment this guy actually claps, because he's like, well, yeah, congratulations, you know, Starfleet thanks you for all your work, and he's clapped. Whoever this actor is, captains, if you know, let me know in the description below. Pretty awesome actor. Yeah, they're pitted against each other, and Worf trying to do all of his things there, saying that Sneed was the reason why they're doing what they're doing, is, of course, the cause of all those deaths. And he kind of actually, the Vulcan there, Kryn, lets him know of the plot, that he was actually a part of it. He got them into Daystrom, but they actually give them both knives because they're going to fight to the death. And this is where they actually do fight, and the moment here was pretty good between here, because Worf had his moment here, another moment here, which is awesome, but they actually do have to fight. And sadly, you know, in this fight, we kind of get what happened, the training, quote unquote training they did on the La Serena. And unfortunately, Raffi actually ends up stabbing Worf. And oh my God, the lines that he delivered here, it was so good. You know, today was a good day to die, and you know, a warrior's death. It was just so good. I am making that a sound command on the Twitch bridge. I am so making that a sound command. Worf's lines here, and then the music, the way that it was just all put in here, it was just good. This scene was well done, especially when he was talking to Raffi. It was great. Again, Worf having his moments, though his moments are very short, they're very impactful. I think because a lot, of course, Michael Dorn, the actor, Worf character as in himself, but also the music, they're just killing every scene. And it's not just Worf, but at least Worf's scenes are very impactful, and this is one of his more impactful scenes here. He's always been kind of joking around up to this point, but now this was kind of a serious moment because he actually did get stabbed by Raffi. But we head over now back to the Titan with the security officers looking for Ro and Picard. And when they looked at each other, there was like, all I can say is like clicking noises, almost like they were communicating to each other. And it actually reminded me of the noises from Strange New Worlds of the Gorn. But again, these are changelings. There was no hiding that from us. They were portraying them as changelings, definitely. But again, we were back taken to Ro and Picard, and this was good. There was a lot of, again, more of the plot up to this point, or at least of what Ro actually has found out so far, that again, the compromisation of Starfleet is just at all spheres of Starfleet, and that she does actually mention she's got 2 boots on the ground that she trusts, and of course that is who we know, Worf and now Raffi. So she is the handler for those 2. And, you know, there was a mention, of course, Picard wanted to see Janeway. Rose tried and can't get past the gatekeeper. So, again, moving the plot along at a very natural pace, I believe. But, of course, that's why she locked the holodeck as well, so that they don't get disturbed. And just a great interaction between these 2. The actors were just going at it, and I absolutely enjoyed it. And that's when she said, you know, I'll maybe talk to Janeway, but she tried already. So, hey, back to Worf, and yeah, it's confirmed that he actually died. He's dead. There's no pulse, and he gets dragged away. And Corinne here says, "Now you're mine." Actually brings into the conversation, well, you know, you're mine because you have loved ones here, your ex-husband, your son, and your granddaughter. But surprise, surprise, as they drag Worf away, everyone around them dies because, well, Worf is actually not dead, but he mastered a technique from Kahless that allows him to sort of slow down his heart rate to the point where they can't really tell, but he's actually stabbed because he's losing a lot of blood. So this was sort of the communication between the 2 of them, that this is what they needed to do. Hence talking about the sacrifice, that he had to make another sacrifice, and that was him getting stabbed by Raffi, because of course we know Raffi's not gonna take on Worf, come on now. But this is where they actually get the whole plot on how he did break in the Daystrom Institute, which he used this device there to break in, which is this. Of course, that's what they're going to get from him. And he actually, last time we see him, he says, yeah, that's a logical, yeah, we're going to give you that. So as now Ro Picard leaves the holodeck there, you know, she's actually telling them to run. They need to run. And they're actually met up with the security officers there. But this moment, oh my God, even just thinking about it right now, holy cow, the feels. I thought I was over it after watching it 3 times, but no, this was great. And this has to be on the same level as Riker and Deanna, but just different, obviously, with Picard and how Ro delivered it. The actress just killed this line, but she actually did hand him something. And, you know, just beautifully done. I really do appreciate this moment. I really didn't know I needed it, but I appreciate it. And as a fan, Oh my God. Nope, not right now. As a fan, I am just thanking the producers who gave me this moment that I, like I said, I've said it ad nauseum, but I didn't know I needed. So it was great. But she actually then goes and orders that they're going back, and the security officer say, well, our orders would take Jack, and of course he's like, no, we're leaving. But it was good, this moment. And she actually does say her goodbye to Picard there, and it was great. It was great. That's all I can really say. But she leaves there, and again, there is her Bajoran earring, which again was a symbol to her, and I think really gives that feeling of genuinity to Picard, to show that there's a trust now, right? That was built back after 30 years. After 30 years, just by her giving Picard her Bajoran earrings. But Picard goes straight to Liam and says, you gotta listen, we gotta run. Of course, he almost gets removed off the bridge, and Liam's like, no. But then this is where all it breaks loose, because as the shuttle now is leaving the Titan, and I did take a couple shots here, because come on now, we get more shots of the Titan, not only the Titan, of course, so now we have 3 ships in this shot. The 2 ships, of course, and the shuttle. Shuttle is little shuttle. They all have the same nacelles. Again, I have my problem with nacelles. I've said it already. I just wish they kind of gave them different nacelles. That's all. Just saying. Not to say that it's not a thing in Star Trek. It is. Galaxy, Nebula, I get it. Just saying. Just saying. Would have been nice. Especially for the Intrepid if it got a different set of nacelles. But it is what it is. But they're making their way back there. We get, again, a shot of the ships. Ro here is with the security officer. She's the one flying the shuttle, but the officers pull a fast one on her. They actually beam out, and they actually put a bomb there in the shuttle. And of course, Ro is now in that predicament. These officers head back to the Titan because they're looking for Jack. And of course, again, we get the actual visual confirmation that they were changelings. They change and they head up, but Ro says what has happened, contacts them, of course, and says, yeah, no, the officers are back there. So, and she can't turn back. She can't, disarm the bomb in time. So they do try to enter, get her back on board, but she has to fly closer. But there is an inhibitor currently active, and it's probably that bomb too as well. Think about it. And yeah, this is where she realizes she's not going to make it. And again, we get another beautiful moment between Ro and Picard, and Ro says, it's now up to you to finish what she started. And it was just, the way that she delivered it was just absolutely awesome. And again, you can see her emotion there. And I'm all for it. I really am. And her just saying her goodbye there. And Picard had his moment too, where he actually said, forgive me, and man. So what she does is actually now this is what we see there, the aftermath in the trailer, but she takes her shuttle there and actually flies it into the nacelle. And that is what we get there, that shot in the trailer. And again, what I said earlier, Riker is there to support Picard, which is a pivotal role, I think, in showing his pain and loss. And I do feel it. I almost had a feel there, but again, it just speaks to them really having a good story, in my opinion, and them pulling that back into the spotlight and them kind of resolving it in this sense of loss. It's just so well done. And that's a shot we saw there, the trailer, and Picard again all distraught because Ro did sacrifice herself. And I did take a quick shot of this screen, of course, of the display of the actual Intrepid here. And we get, again, another shot. I do like the profile. I feel like they should have gone, again, I do have some concept art, but I'm waiting for Bill Krause to let me know that I can do another video, and it's going to be my follow-up video to this. But I could have, again, this is fine. When this comes to Star Trek Online, I'm not sure if I'm going to get the ship. I probably will down the line, as my sort of respect to Bill and my support to him on, getting his ship here in Picard. But it is a great looking ship. I like how they Picardified it. But you see here the shields is also one thing I wanted to make a note of, is the shields were a bubble as opposed to the close sort of forming shield that we've been seeing so far on the Titan. So I thought it was quite interesting because they even had these little dots going up here, which reminds me of the TMP screen when the shields were going up on the ships there, but that is what we get. Now, of course, they see the angry ship coming up to them, because this is where they start pleading with Liam that they need to go. But this ship now is getting its stuff together and starting. So this is, again, from that scene there, it rising up. And yeah, there was a tweet on Twitter saying, never seen a ship so angry. Yeah, I can see that. This ship was ready to go. But again, I took all these shots because I wanted to get as much shots as I can, of course, when we do the follow-up video on this ship. And then Riker pleads him, they gotta go. You know, 7 is the same thing, along with Picard saying, you know, Ro would have died for nothing, right? And they're pleading with him, and Riker does say, okay, if you don't trust us still, well, trust with your own eyes on what's going on. And yeah, we see the Intrepid priming up a torpedo ready to fire. I think we get a good close-up shot there of the front profile there of the ship. And he does go to red alert, actually announcing to the ship that Starfleet has been compromised. So everyone's getting out together there, and the security officers actually find Jack. Now this is again lead to what's going on here in my sort of conclusion here. But Jack sort of is confronted with the 2 security officers that came back, but also 2 more beam in. So they were going to beam him out, but then he closes his eyes, and then when he closes his eyes, it's like, I feel like he was allowing the change in him to take over, because we get, of course, the flashes of red that we were seeing there, and he actually opens his eyes and then takes out everyone. He literally takes out everyone there. So it was 1 against 4 or 4 against 1, and he was able to take them all out, like with extreme extermination there. He killed everyone. He even shot that officer there, like right in the head, like 3-4 times. But then we see him seeing that red door there. That is what he's seeing, of course, with all those vines things that he's been seeing. So I feel like he drew upon what was inside him to sort of get himself out of that situation. And then he closes his eyes again, and it's just a normal thing. So again, he's fighting it, but he was actually allowing at that time to kind of self-preserve himself and the changeling within him, I feel. So, but now here the Titan's trying to get away, and this is a cool sequence because we had the Intrepid right behind there, priming up again that torpedo there. And then, of course, they actually do fire, but the Titan actually does get away. And again, just want to take this, get a closer look here at the ship. It's kind of the same angle when we first see the ship, but you know, the Titan does get away here, and Riker says now everyone's headed for them. So they're running to, I don't know where. I have no idea. But again, Liam being able to stand up against the legacy characters. Again, another awesome performance by Liam, the actor as well. Just awesome. Beautiful shot of the warp. The Titan going into warp there. We have, again, Riker talking to Picard because he was actually in the meeting room there. And this was a good moment. Again, like somewhat a closure moment, saying, Riker saying something to the effect of, I don't, you know, what she meant to you, and or he knew what he meant to her, and Picard says, no, you didn't, but he also says, I don't think I did too as well. So that goes to what I said earlier, I didn't know I needed this, and it was great. The way this was all closed off there with Ro was great, but actually shows Riker the earrings that was given to him by Ro, which is actually a file containing her whole investigation up to this point, which of course we saw in the trailer. But we get a nugget here on the right of the screen there. We see the Odyssey, the Enterprise F. Of course, we know that this ship from Star Trek Online that got canonized. And again, they're just reaffirming that. But this is the whole investigation that Rose had. She kept it in her earring and gave it to Picard again to give him all the information and to be able to carry out and find out what's going on. So again, a great sort of handoff. I really thought it was great. And of course, we see all the files there, and of course, stating the names that are possibly, I'm not sure if she confirmed it, but maybe just saying that they're possibly compromised in Starfleet upper sort of management, but upper levels of Starfleet, I should say. So, but they get an incoming hail, and guess what? It's Worf. This is the first time now that we see them interact now with Worf. Of course, we said already, and we found out that Ro had two people on the ground, and of course Worf was one of them, and Ro was communicating through the earring there. So it was a surprise to them that they saw Worf. Same thing with Worf, and he actually does ask, well, where's Ro? And Picard does give him a. So this was a cool moment. Now we're gonna see them in the next episode obviously hook up, and I thought this was great. This was really great. But now, of course, we're taken here to the sick bay where, yeah, Liam says 4 changelings on one ship. So again, this is confirming Beverly's suspicion that, yeah, they're everywhere now. So, but Bev does ask some time alone with Jack. And this is where we kind of find a little bit more backstory. Apparently when, Jack was a kid, he had trouble sleeping because he didn't want to see the nightmares. But meaning just Beverly knows something's up with him. And the fact that he took on 4 changelings, he asks, how did you know? Or she asks, how did you know? And she's like, I didn't. So, but at this point, we end off at Jack actually telling Beverly that there is something wrong with him. So, we're finding out here in the next episode if he actually tells her. And of course, what does Beverly do, right? One, they're now running away from Starfleet, so they're out of the protection of Starfleet. But Beverly's her whole shtick here was to protect Jack, her son. So what is she going to do with that information? I don't know. Even though Beverly didn't have a lot of moments in here in this episode, I think this end off here, you can tell the motherly side of Beverly was coming out. But again, that just brings us to the end of the episode, and I'm just floored at what I felt here. I did not know when I watched it the first time where I was in terms of how I felt of the episode, but it was great. And I'd have to give it another 10, maybe a 9.99, but overall, I mean, when I say 9.99, captains, that's 10. Now, my theory on what is happening here, and this is a conversation I had with one of our supporters here, and shout out to Mr. Elf, and it kind of came out to, and it makes sense. So this is my theory. Jack is a changeling or partial changeling or something that his sort of the reasoning why they're getting him, and of course to the voices that he's kept hearing, like find me, and all that stuff, is he's going to be the one to reconnect the Great Link and the Splinter Cell terrorist group changelings. I don't know how I feel about that. It's been done before. So he's going to be the one to essentially be the savior of everything. It makes sense in a way, but if he's going to be the one to be the savior or the reason why the links and why the fighting or the war stops, I'm not sure how I feel. It'll depend on how they do it, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. So I don't mind it, but it'll all depend on how they actually make that happen story-wise. So that's my theory on that. Up to this point, we still have not seen Geordi. I thought we were going to see Geordi. I said that in the last episode. We still haven't seen Lore, nor Moriarty, or Deanna hook up back with the crew. Because in the trailers, there was a scene where Deanna was there in person, not just a screen. So I was told that the next episode is where they're all going to hook up. I want to see how they do that. And now that we're at this point of the story, halfway, I don't want it to end. Captains, I'm not going to lie. I don't want this to end. So I hope that they carry on with Picard after, and there's spin-off shows. But not only that, but they tell the stories like this. Every single episode up to this point, midway season, has felt like a mini movie. I've been on a roller coaster ride emotionally, up and down, happy, smiling, laughing, even crying, feeling emotional. This is what I want in my Star Trek. I know there are others that don't agree with it. That's fine. There's plenty of Star Trek before Picard that you can still go on and keep on enjoying. I know that we want new Trek, but this is for me. I'm okay with this. And I think Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks has proven that I'm okay with that type of Trek. So I don't know where they go from here. I hope the petition does get sort of looked at and realize, hey, yeah, there's still Trek to be made at this point where people will love it if we just continue on with this. So I'd have to give it a 9.99 out of 10 / 10 out of 10 because it was a really great episode. Something, like I said, I did not know I needed, but I'm glad I got it. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of captains that felt the same way. So captains, do me a favor, like the video, let me know below. See, I can't even speak because I'm still over emotionally on this. Let me know below what you thought of this episode, what score you gave it, and let me know your theories. What do you think of Jack? But with that said, we're going to leave it on this note. And of course, subscribe here to the YouTube Bridge. We're going to do a couple more videos on this episode, especially with the new ship, the Intrepid there. So be on the lookout for that. But we'll leave it on this note.
Live long.
As always, subscribe here to the YouTube Bridge, captains. We'll see you in the next video.